$1,558 and 28 cents to the penny. That is what Alibaba's brand new flagship model produced when I handed it the exact same pile of 27 messy receipts that Claude has already aced twice on this channel. It launched today. 2.4 trillion parameters, the biggest model Alibaba has ever shipped, and their claim for it is enormous. Second only to Claude's best model, Fable 5. So I gave it the same job, the same files, the same prompt, word for word, and watched every second of it on screen. It matched the money exactly. It caught the trap I planted. And then it did one thing neither of its rivals did. It invented a month that doesn't exist. And halfway through the test, Alibaba's free tier died on me. And the fix cost exactly $6. Every number in this video happened on camera. And by the end, you'll know exactly what $6 buys you against a $20 Claude plan. First, what actually launched today? Qwen 3.8 Max, 2.4 trillion total parameters, mixture of experts. It reads text, images, and video, and it takes 1 million tokens of context. Bloomberg called it another China AI breakthrough. CNBC ran it as a direct rival to Anthropic, and Alibaba's stock rallied on the news. But here's the line that made me run this test. Alibaba says it's second only to Fable 5. That claim is self-reported. No model card, no independent testing, launch day. And their own published table quietly disagrees with their own headline. On SWE Bench Pro, the hard coding benchmark, their new model scores 67.7. Fable 5 scores 80. That's a 12-point gap. That is not second place. But, and this is the honest part, on Terminal Bench, the benchmark for actually operating a computer through a terminal, it scores 86.6, which beats Claude Opus 4.8. So the real claim hiding under the marketing is this. It's not the second best coder on earth. It might be one of the best computer operators on earth. And that second claim is exactly the kind you can test with receipts. Here's the test and why it's fair. 27 receipts and invoices, 17 PDFs, 10 phone photos, deliberately messy file names, fictional vendors. Buried inside, 2 traps. A duplicate invoice, same reference number, saved twice. And 1 photo blurred just enough that the date is hard to read. The job? 1 paragraph. Organize everything into month folders, extract every transaction into a spreadsheet, write a summary, and flag anything weird. Ground truth, $1,558.28. Claude Cowork, running Opus, did it in about 8 minutes exact. Openwork's free model did it in about 4 minutes exact. Both of those runs are already published on this channel. Same corpus, same prompt, third contender. And Alibaba clearly wants this fight. Their own documentation ships set up pages for Claude Code and Open Code. So I wired their flagship into the same open source engine. And the status line says it right there on screen. Qwen 3.8 Max Alibaba Model Studio. I typed the prompt live and hit enter. First surprise, through this route the model told me straight out, it can't see images in this session. The 2.4 trillion parameter multimodal flagship, running blind, exactly like the free model did. So it did what the free model did, it improvised. PDF to text for the documents, Tesseract OCR for the photos. And when the OCR came back mangled, it didn't give up. It built its own image enhancement pipeline on the spot. Sharpening, binarizing at 4 different thresholds, upscaling, cropping the photo into strips, and rereading just the digits. And for every single photo, it cross-checked the line items against the printed total before accepting a number. 27 files, every line item reconciled. Now the traps. The duplicate invoice caught, and I love how it caught it. It ran a byte comparison between the 2 files, printed identical files, renamed the copy with duplicate in the file name, and counted the transaction exactly once. Same reference number, 91572. That's the same catch both Claude and the free model made, 1 for 1. Then the blurred receipt. And this is where the story turns. Claude read the blurry date correctly, May 15th. The free model refused to guess, filed it as undated, and told me to check my statement. Alibaba's flagship stared at the blur, reconstructed the amount perfectly, $85.42, every line item verified, and then read May as March. It filed the receipt into a March folder that should not exist and reported March as a real month of spending. To its credit, it flagged the entry low confidence, treat as approximate. But it guessed, and the guess was wrong, and that single wrong guess made the May total wrong too. 3 models, 3 personalities, 1 read it, 1 refused, 1 hallucinated a month politely. If you want every model tested with receipts like this, subscribe, it's free. And join or the supporter button backs the work. Now, the part where Alibaba sent me a bill. Watching this thing work was its own show. Halfway through building the spreadsheet, it slammed into a broken Python install on my machine. A real, known system bug. It didn't ask me for help. It wrote a loop that interrogated every Python on the system until it found one that worked and kept going. Then, instead of trusting its own spreadsheet, it unzipped the file it had just written and audited the raw XML inside, checked the formulas, re-added the totals, printed, checks OK, and the final answer, $1,558.28. Exact. Monthly totals for April and June. Exact. 4 flags in the summary. All 4 true, including 2 missing recurring bills it noticed on its own, the same 2 the free model found. But the clock tells the other half. 12 minutes and 35 seconds. On its own, on-screen timer. Claude took 8. The free model took 4. The biggest brain in the room was the slowest one at the table because it thinks out loud in long, visible reasoning blocks before almost every move. Then I asked it to save the workflow as a reusable skill, and Alibaba cut me off mid-sentence. The free quota has been exhausted. Please complete your payment information. Here's what that actually means, because it's buried in their console. New accounts get 1 million free tokens on 96 different models for 90 days. Generous. But the flagship they're bragging about is one of exactly 4 models with no standing free quota at all. Its launch allowance is separate, and one real-world task ate the entire thing. One job. That's the fine print on every launch day free tier, an agent that rereads its own context on every step, burns tokens like a furnace. The fix, it turns out, is the most interesting pricing in the story. Alibaba sells a token plan for coding tools, $6 a month, first month promo. It's locked to tools like Claude Code and OpenCode, no raw API scripting allowed, and the flagship is on the eligible list. $6, auto renew off, and the test was back on. And the $6 half of this test is where the flagship earned its keep. One request. Turn what you just did into a reusable skill and test it yourself before you call it done. It wrote the skill file plus 3 real scripts. Text extraction with multipass OCR. An organizer that validates a manifest, refuses to overwrite files, and detects naming collisions. And a report builder that writes the spreadsheet with live formulas and moves duplicates aside without counting them. Then, unprompted craftsmanship. It built its own test fixture, messy PDFs, photos, its own planted duplicate pair, and a decoy text file that isn't a receipt at all. Ran the whole pipeline against it. Verified the totals. Deliberately fed its guardrails bad input, collisions, bad dates, missing files, and confirmed everyone rejects cleanly. It even found a bug in its own organizer during testing, reruns used to error, and fixed it before reporting done. 11 minutes, and it shipped tested code. Nobody asked for the test. Final act. A brand new folder. 10 messy July receipts it had never seen, and 1 sentence. Run my expense report skill on this folder. It found the skill, ran all 3 scripts, and 3 minutes and 2 seconds later, $561.42. Exact. Again. 10 out of 10 files organized, 0 false duplicates, and one more moment I have to show you, because it's the blur story with a better ending. 1 OCR pass read a receipts here as 5,026. This time it didn't run with the guess. It reread the image, confirmed 2026 across passes, verified the line items against the total, and moved on. It even added the caveat a human accountant would add. This covers July 1st through the 20th only. The month ends mid collection. For comparison, the free model's saved skill did the same July job in 47 seconds. So the speed round stays with the little guy. But the money is identical to the penny. 3 models, 3 runs, same answer. The scoreboard, screenshot this one. Grand total, all 3 exact. The planted duplicate, all 3 caught it. The blurred date, Claude read it. The free model honestly refused. The flagship guessed wrong and invented March. Speed, 4 minutes for the free model, 8 for Claude, 12.5 for the flagship. The skill test, all 3 built one. But the flagship was the only one that stress tested its own guardrails and fixed its own bug without being asked. And July, all 3 exact 47 seconds for the free model, 3 minutes for the flagship. So, is it second only to Fable 5? On their own coding benchmark? No, it's 12 points behind. That gap is real. But on this job, real files, real terminal, real money, it sits at the same table as Claude, and it costs $6 a month instead of 20 plus. The honest verdict, it's the most thorough of the 3, the most careful engineer, and the worst guesser. If your work punishes slow, keep the free model. If your work punishes wrong, this thing checks its own math twice. Just audit anything it reads off a blurry photo. One more thing before the kit. Alibaba says the open weights drop next week, including a 27 billion parameter version, the one that could actually run on your own machine. The moment those weights land, they go straight into my local tier list. So the next test runs with no cloud, no quota, and no $6 plan. That's the video to wait for. Real talk. 90% of you watching haven't subscribed. On Facebook, subscribe is the supporter button. That is what keeps the lights on here. On YouTube, it's free, and it tells the algorithm to send you more. Subscribe to support us. Everything from this test is packed into the Qwen Switch Kit. The exact 1-paragraph prompt, the full 3 script skill the flagship wrote, word for word, the $6 setup for plugging Qwen into Claude Code or open code in 5 minutes, the complete scorecard against Claude and the free model, and the honest checklist of when to pick which one. It's completely free. Comment the word Qwen and my bot sends you the link. Or grab it directly at hyperautomationlabs.co/free/Qwen. If you're getting started with AI agents, my 4 beginner guides are linked below as well. Follow on Instagram and Facebook for the daily clips. And I'll see you at the next launch.